No, I forgot the best part. Hi, I have a note for a cast member. Can I drop that off with you? You're going to have to go to the stage door. Tell how like weird I'm getting. I can't even make eye contact with the camera right now.
I couldn't help but realize that I am very much driven by the fear of regret.
You're speaking about the boldness regret, at taking a risk and putting yourself out there and really being vulnerable is the one category that most people speak of a time when they regret something.
If we can reframe that, that's the risk. What's the big deal then? And she's like, no, next time. What if there's no next time? Now is the time. You're going to regret not asking him.
This is the time now. You know that for sure.
Take that opportunity, put yourself out there, go get it.
Opportunity is not a lengthy visitor.
Rather than the what if you then own a life of as if. No regrets.
I bet our listener and viewership didn't anticipate that it would be a BOGO. They would get an episode and a little beauty tip, right?
The beauty tip.
Welcome to Simply Enough. This is Zachary and Elizabeth, and thanks for tuning in.
If you're liking our podcast, we'd love it if you'd share with your friends and family.
And then rate and review to raise our visibility and spread the message of enoughness.
We love you, and remember, you are simply enough.
Just as you are.
Period.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Simply Enough. I'm Mr. Zachary Leonard.
And I'm Dr. Elizabeth Ignacio.
And I got poofy hair today, Dr. Ignacio. You've got some nice...
And I've got flat hair today. If we have viewers that have followed us from the beginning, it's deja vu all over again, as Yogi Berra would say, because here I am in the same hotel room as episode 15, because I just brought our daughter to college.
Aww.
Here I am at the... like we said in the last episode, a start of a new journey, dropped off my daughter at college, and I'm in the same hotel room as we were in episode 15, when I brought my daughter to a pre-frosh weekend at the same college. And I was tearful then, and admittedly, I am tearful now. For those of you watching us on YouTube right now, yes, my nose is pink like a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, because I had a little pre-episode cry with my dear beloved friend Zachary, because this is an emotional time. And so this podcast and recording the podcast is a wonderful respite for me from all of my emotions, but we'll see what emotions come out now during this recording.
Well, and to give yourself a little credit. So you know, when we did talk before we started recording, you were very clear that these emotions are complex and complicated. It's not just one, right? And for anybody right now, and we mentioned this in the previous episode, this is a time for new beginnings. August, September tends to be the start of a new school year. Parents are dropping their kids off for their first day of kindergarten, their first day of pre-K, their first day of college. And it's just as much an opportunity for new beginnings for adults as it is for children, which is why I think that episode will really resonate with so many of our listeners and viewers. And I suspect that our episode today is also going to resonate in a similar vein. But to just give any of our listeners who primarily listen, go to YouTube, because I know she's going to be really mad at me for saying this, but Dr. Ignacio is a beautiful person on the inside, but she's also a beautiful person on the outside. So I don't see pink nose. I see just a fresh, like flowy hair, just gorgeous woman also on camera with me today. So I don't think you have anything to worry about, but this is always
bless you, because as we talked about, when I travel pretty much sans makeup. So, this is as close to au naturel as it gets. I use tinted lip balm for my eyeshadow, blush, all because it's sunscreen is important to me. So it's my sunscreen, lip balm, and my hair. I bring no hair products with me or hair instruments. This is about as au naturel as it gets. And then how much more au naturel can we get than being vulnerable with our emotions?
Exactly.
Right?
And I bet our listener and viewership didn't anticipate that it would be a BOGO. They would get an episode and a little beauty tip. right?
The beauty tip.
The lip balm with the sunscreen that you can use not just on your lips.
Thing.
I'm
But
gonna go buy.
if you look on YouTube, it looks like I put lip balm on my nose, but I
No.
didn't. That's from crying. So that was not a faux pas on my part. But anyway, so yes, this is new beginnings. And yes, again, my daughter, for whom I have been responsible for 18 years, now has left the nest. And I have felt like I need to, or want to at least, impart all of these like life lessons before she leaves. And of course, that would not have been received well by my teenage children.
Got it, Mom.
But yeah, shut up. But it's one thing that as I was watching not only my daughter go through this, but, you know, my son, he's a rising junior. So he himself will be going through his own journey and process of looking into colleges and thinking about his essay applications and that kind of thing. I feel so privileged to witness them through this journey. And then, of course, it makes me reflect on, you know, my own journey and honestly, my own life. And I couldn't help but think and realize that I am very much driven by the fear of regret. So I don't really have as much, at least, the fear of embarrassment or, you know, fear of rejection. My bigger fear is actually leaving things undone, leaving things unsaid, not taking opportunities and yeah, just my fear of regretting things left undone. And so I know I've pushed, and I apologize, Gracie and Mikey, but I know I pushed that on them. Like, just don't regret, like, just put yourself out there, take that opportunity, you know, don't take no from somebody who can't even say yes, you know, that kind of thing. And that was very much a part of the past week and a half that we've all spent together. My daughter, as you know, Zachary, is going to a school on the East Coast. And so what we did before dropping her off so that we can have a little bit of family time. Yes, I'm admitting that it was all a part of a plan, Gracie and Mikey, that I did. I wanted to remove ourselves from our home environment, actually, so that the four of us could really be together. And so we went to New York first before dropping off my daughter at her college. And so we went to New York City for a few days. And I think it's clear to any of our listeners and viewers, not only I, but my kids as well are big like musical theater fans. And then I did mention in a couple of previous episodes that specifically also, aside from musical theater, my daughter Gracie is a big Disney High School Musical fan, and High School Musical, the series, otherwise known as, what is it? HSMTMTS. So she's a big follower, and it's so cute. And so when we were making plans of what are we going to do when we're in Manhattan, and I said, go look up some Broadway shows, Gracie freaked out because she found Into the Woods, which is undergoing what was supposed to be a short revival, but it's so well received that it just it continues. And not only upon finding that did she find Into the Woods, but she found out that one of the stars of HSMTMTS, Julia Lester, was playing Little Red Riding Hood. So that alone, she was like, oh, we have to see that. And then it turned out that, I mean, what a cast. For those who, you know, follow musical theater, I mean, Sarah Bareilles, Brian Darcy James, Patina Miller, Philippa Sue, who for those of you who aren't even musical theater fans, but at least know Hamilton, she played Eliza. I mean, what a phenomenal cast. So
real quick, I just love that, like, our generation would be excited about those names, but your daughter was so excited about Julia Lester, who probably most of us in our 40s, 50s have no idea who she is, right? So like your daughter's like, oh my God, Julia Lester. And we're like, who? Like Patina Miller and Philippa Sue and Sarah Bareilles, Gavin Creel, Joshua Henry, you know.
And Julia Lester kicked ass, as did everybody. Like, it was just an amazing show. And that was going to be kind of like the pinnacle of our weekend in Manhattan. And it was, so it's not to diminish that, but her favorite actor from HSMTMTS, aren't you proud of me, Gracie, that I got that? Is a gentleman by the name of Joe Serafini. And he and his on-screen and off-screen significant other, Frankie. She loves him too, but she especially loves Joe Serafini, to the degree where last year for her birthday, my son, Gracie's brother, Mikey, who's just so thoughtful and so loving, bought what's called a cameo. Yes, bought a cameo, which for our listeners and viewers, I didn't know what it was. That's my age. You can pay an actor, an athlete to do a shout out video. And you can give a little details of, the name and the occasion and that kind of stuff. And so, so last year, Mikey surprised Gracie for her birthday with a Joe Serafini cameo. And Joe did such a great personal job, shouting out to Gracie and shouting out to Mikey. And it was just, and of course we kept that video. Well, it turns out, and so she follows Joe on Instagram. And I guess like a month ago or so, Joe said, "Hey, everybody, I'm about to make a big surprise announcement at whatever time. And so stay tuned." And so sure enough, like Gracie set her alarm and waited for this live surprise. And the live surprise, like a month ago or so, was I am having my New York off-Broadway debut. I'm having a one-night, one-man show in New York on this date. Well, guess what date it was? It was the day after the show Into the Woods. We were going to be there that weekend. Cool. So sure enough, jumped on and purchased tickets for this small, phenomenal, intimate show of Joe Serafini. And Gracie was so grateful and excited. And Mikey was, excited for Gracie because we just knew what this weekend meant for her, and thus what it means for the family to see such joy. We saw Into the Woods, which, like I said, was phenomenal. And then the next night, we're going to this Joe Serafini show. And what I didn't tell Gracie until we arrived is I actually brought with me some little Hawaii treats for Joe Serafini with a little note to say thank you for the cameo and tell him that, the day that he announced it, we purchased the tickets, and they were, it was an intimate lounge. It's called the Green Room. Everybody, it's awesome.
At the Green Room?
Yeah, it was at the Green Room. So it's quite up close and personal, but even more so we did. I admit we purchased the front row tables. And the people at the box office, when we arrived, of course, first in line, even though we had like set seats, we were still first in line.
I love it.
And the people that were seated at the box office were so gracious. I explained, like, I know this is weird, but we brought these treats from Hawaii, and we know Frankie and Joe. It's funny. I know this all because of Gracie. Frankie and Joe were just in Hawaii 2 weeks ago, but hopefully they enjoyed it. But we brought a little taste of aloha for them, and they were so gracious, and they actually gave it to them. Anyway, so we were seated there, and like I said, we were first in line. So when we were seated, we were the first to be seated, so we could see everybody that came in. Well, how lovely! So many of the cast of HSM TMTS came to support Joe. And again, of course, we knew Frankie, Joe's significant other, on screen and off screen, was there, of course. And then, of course, Joe's parents were there. But then who comes in? Julia Lester, and of Goldilocks Red Riding Hood of Into the Woods, and Andrew Barth Feldman came. So, he was the youngest ever Dear Evan Hansen. And Tim Federle, who is the creator, was there. And he, again, on Disney Plus, there's a show called Better Nate Than Never, which is amazing. That's based on Tim Federle's life. He walked in. So here's all these people that are walking in. And Gracie was just amazed. And actually, I should say also this, while we were first in line, because we were early, I'll also say that Frankie, this is where regret comes in. Frankie came out and walked past us, and Mikey and I said, Gracie, that's Frankie. Forgive me, I don't know Frankie's last name, but Gracie, that's Frankie. Go ask him for a picture. Because I mean, it was downtime. We were like 45 minutes early, and he just was walking past us. And she froze, and she was in awe just to like see him and have him walk right by her. And I said, Gracie, just ask for a picture. Just go and ask for a picture. And she's like, no. And I'm like, they're stars. They're early stars right now. So I bet you they'll be gracious and actually excited that you are so happy that you flew 5,000 miles to see them. And she's like, no, next time. And I'm like, next time? How do you know there's going to be a next time? Like, now is the time. I said, Gracie, you're going to regret not asking him, because what if there's no next time? There might be, but what if there's not? Here it is. But she still didn't while we were in line. So then again, like I said, then we go into the room, and here's all these people coming, and it's getting closer to showtime. And Gracie, and I'm sorry, Gracie, I don't blame you, but she was getting annoyed with me because I kept saying, Gracie, just go up and ask. Just go and ask for a photo. Again, it's an intimate room. They're used to it. And again, they're early stars. Yep. So they may be used to it, but it still might be a big kick for them. And certainly I would think that they're still grateful, but she wouldn't. Well, other fans, we noticed, were going up to these, Disney stars and asking for pictures. And I said, Gracie, once the show starts, you don't know what it's gonna be like after. Where are they gonna go? There is no like side stage door, for you to wait by. Finally she did. And lo and behold, and this is why I want to name them, every person that she went up to, Frankie, the new cast member who's so sweet that I can't remember her name, Julia Lester, Tim Federle, Andrew, all of them were so gracious and not just said, sure, I'll take a selfie and smiled. They stopped to talk to her because, she led with, I came from Hawaii to see you. So of course that like opened the conversation, and they were so gracious. The new cast member commented how pretty Gracie was. I'm like, oh my God, it's so kind. And Julia Lester was so grateful that Gracie came to see Into the Woods, and Gracie was talking about her performance in Into the Woods. And Julia came in with Tim, and Gracie asked Tim to take a picture of her and Julia, and then asked Julia to take a picture of Gracie and Tim. And they did. And they were just so gracious. And then after the show, I ran into them in the hallway leading to the bathroom. And I said, I just have to tell you, as a mom, I'm getting tearful. Thank you so much, because you made such an impression and have made an impression on my daughter for these years of your show. And now to treat her the way that you have is just so amazing, because she was very nervous, embarrassed, shy. And I told her she would regret it if she didn't ask. And now not only does she have the pictures that she wanted, but she has an even deeper, stronger, fonder memory by stepping out of her comfort zone, not wanting to regret not doing something, and look at the pot of gold that she got, that treasure. And again, they stopped to talk to me, and they were just so gracious. And I know this is a long story, but I have to say a shout out to Joe, because we haven't even brought up Joe yet. So Joe, and then I also, the mom that I am, went to go talk to Joe Serafini's parents.
Yes.
To tell them and thank them for job well done, mom to parents, job well done, that I recognize that Joe is the kind, gracious, young man that he is, so much as a reflection of the upbringing and the love and the support and the groundedness and the foundation that he had from them. I had to say that as a mom, and they stopped to talk to me, and they were like, that is so wonderful that you came from Hawaii and Joe did a cameo, and thank you so much. And it was just a wonderful evening. Okay, then it gets even better. So
It gets better.
Gracie, I'm so sorry. It gets better and longer. I'm so sorry, everybody. And
You're
thank
good.
you for your patience.
We're with you.
So Gracie is still, though, like, where's Joe? Like, she still hasn't had her picture of Joe. But now she's a little bit more emboldened, but still shy, but still emboldened to be like, well, if I got all of these pictures, I am going to stand in line for Joe, but stand in line in quotes. Nobody knew where to wait. So she found out where he showed up back in the green room. So she went to the green room and she stood in line, and she got to meet him and got to take a picture, and again got to talk to him about the Cameo video and how she came to the show and bought the tickets that very day, and how she talked to Frankie, and Frankie talked to her about their trip to Hawaii and that kind of stuff. And he said, oh, is it you that gave the gift? And we saw him carrying the gift after the sound check. So we knew he got the gift because it was in a bright orange Big Island Candies bag. Shout out to Big Island Candies. Sponsor us, Big Island Candies.
Yes, really.
But so we knew he got it. But for him to mention like, oh, you're the one that gave me the Hawaii treats. Thank you so much. And it was just a very personal exchange. Well, then Gracie posts on her Instagram all of these pictures. And I guess you can tag, you know, so she tagged every individual person in this collage of pictures from the evening. And she said, oh, but anybody, I said, how do you know their Instagram handles? I don't do Instagram. So how do you know their handles or whatever it's called? And she said, oh, anybody can get it and you can tag it, but it goes into a separate compartment and like they rarely see it, much less comment. But I wanted anybody who saw my pictures to know who they were. You know, to give them credit that they were so gracious in taking pictures of me, which I thought that was so sweet. So she tagged everybody. And she said, yeah, but they won't respond. Okay. We drive from Manhattan to her town of where her college is. And by the time that we arrive to the town, there is a direct message from Joe Serafini specifically saying things to Gracie again about each of the individual gifts that were in the Big Island Candies bag, and how much it meant to him meeting her. And he responded to her personally with a personal message, not just a thanks for being there, THX or T. and that's another episode.
Thumbs up.
Of giving thanks, right? It was a very personal message. And it just made me think it is big in my life, which is that fear of regret, the regret of things, of not taking opportunities, and the regret of not putting yourself out there, and the regret of not going up to a random stranger and striking up a conversation, and not asking for what you want, and not going for what you want. Go get it. No regrets. Go reach for it. Go get it. Go ask. That was just such a wonderful evening, a wonderful weekend, really, of that example of life. And just to summate for me, I mean, that's what my life has been all about, is I recognize that my biggest fear is fear of regret.
So I have to tell you, I have been waiting to ask you about this because I follow Gracie on Instagram, and I saw all those photos because she did like a photo collage. It was like one story and with each one of those photos. And I was, because I know that she's a big High School Musical, the musical series. Did I do it right?
Close.
What is it?
High School Musical, the musical, the series. And you need to say it that quickly.
High School Musical, the musical, the series. Did I do okay?
Bingo.
Very, very Stephen Sondheim title. Smash. Anyway, I saw her post, and of course I just loved it because I thought, I don't want to be like the dorky uncle that's like, what is this? All these, but like, she's got other people in her life that, and maybe I do regret not actually asking her, but I was waiting to ask you. And I'm so excited I waited because that is an epic story.
It's an epic evening for her.
Epic. Not only just to see the production of Into the Woods and see Julia, but to be able to see her the next day and the entire cast and Tim Federle. And how was the show?
They're so gracious. The show was phenomenal. And
Oh.
that was, talk about no regrets and putting yourself out there. That, Joe spoke of how that was his first, show in New York. And he had a lot of kind of imposter syndrome. Am I good enough? Alum of the musical theater program of the University of Michigan, which is, yes.
It's a solid program.
Yes. Yeah. Beyond solid. Absolutely. Yeah. And, Frankie had to kind of lift him up and coax him and goad him to, you're going to regret not taking this opportunity. So there's just so much of that theme that I was just kind of recognizing and resonating during this journey to dropping off Gracie, and even conversations we're having with our son, with Mikey, as he looks towards his own journey and his own exploration into what schools and what is he looking for, and in schools and opportunities and benefits and risks and weighing all of that. And it's important, of course, to weigh risks versus benefits. But one of the risks I think that people might not look at as much, a lot of people are the risk of rejection and the risk of being told no, the risk of being embarrassed, and the risk of being turned down. And for me, again, what I look back on my life, I think for me, what I fear is the biggest risk of not doing and the risk of not trying. And
well, Daniel, sorry, I should probably say Daniel Pink is a big author in the power of regret. And what his research has found is that most people regret the things they didn't do. And then I think he forgive me, it's been a little while since I've read his book, so if I misspeak, please let me know. He's info@simplyenough.me. Let me know. Let us know. But he puts regret into 4 different categories. And I think if I remember correctly, the category of regret that you're speaking about is the boldness regret. It's the category of that taking a risk and putting yourself out there and really being vulnerable is the one category that most people speak of, or those salient moments in their life that they can recall very quickly of a time when they regret something. Not so much they regret the things they did do, but they regret the things that they didn't do, particularly in the moments that asked them to take a risk or to be vulnerable. And that's exactly what you're talking about right now.
And when we talk about taking a risk of being vulnerable, or risk of being emotional, or the risk of embarrassment, or the risk of rejection, if we can reframe that in terms of, as we have in previous episodes, of that's the risk. What's the big deal then? You know what I mean? Like, the risk of rejection, the risk of embarrassment, the risk of being told no, versus the risk of not doing and not trying, and it works out for you. That's a bigger risk, I think. Yeah. So if we can actually minimize the weighing the risk of rejection, the risk of embarrassment, the risk of being told no, versus the risk of regret of not trying, again, for me at least, the risk of regret is what I now recognize has really driven me and motivated me and fueled me. So if anybody, and maybe nobody does, but if anybody looks at my life as successful or accomplished, let me just say that that's why. Is because I have a bigger fear of the risk of regret.
Yeah. Well, and interesting, you started all of this by saying that Into the Woods was really what you thought was going to be the culminating moment of your trip in Manhattan, because there's a line that Cinderella sings and speaks in Into the Woods that says, opportunity is not a lengthy visitor. And you said that, like Gracie said, next time. And you're like, there may not be a next time. Your opportunity window is potentially open just for a brief moment, and you've got to take it if you can. And what a perfect example of how I know I can tuck myself into thinking, it's okay, I'll do it another time, when, to your point, like, and to Stephen Sondheim's line, there may not be another time. This is the time now. You know that for sure. This is the opportunity.
You know that for sure. Go get it, take it, stand in line, be the first in line. Yeah.
Can I share a story in that regard? A similar vein in the idea of putting yourself out there to meet somebody. It's funny because we had prepared when we knew we were going to talk about regret and what if. And so I had a couple stories that I wanted to share because, we like to use stories to help ourselves really dig into these themes and topics. And the story that I wanted to share was about my love of performing and how when I went to college, I decided I was going to pursue something a little more reliable. And and then I have lived with this idea of like, should, that's a bad word, but what if I had pursued a career in performing arts and et cetera, and how Into the Woods was really a show that got me back into performing arts as an amateur, but that's actually not the story that I want to share. So I want to kind of segue into a new story. Okay. So I was studying abroad in London. That is another area of regret, as I was taking Japanese in college, and the Japan program was a year. And I didn't know if I wanted to give up a full year of my life to be abroad in Japan. And to this day, I still feel like there was an opportunity missed there, that would have been truly an experience that really you can only have like in college. But anyway, finding the silver lining, it led to this story. So I'm studying abroad in London. And so I've talked openly about how I grew up chubby and husky, and I have a lot of body awareness because, I was overweight as a kid, and that was something that was brought to my attention a lot by others and whatnot. So when I moved to London, I started walking from the flat building to our classroom building a lot and started working out a lot more, but I still had a lot of insecurities about my image. In addition, it was the first time that I lived in a major city on my own, and to be a young queer male in a city, starting to feel a little more confident about myself physically, emotionally, et cetera. It was a very transformative moment for me, just as going into my young adulthood. Well, we saw a production of Rent, and I gotta be honest, I like Rent, but I never was like moved by Rent. And I've seen it so many times. And for people of our generation, Rent is a big deal. It was like a major moment. Anyway, so I went with a friend of mine to see Rent, in the West End, and we got front row or second row tickets for, I don't know, cheap, right?
Wow.
Well, first of all, that cast was incredible. There was something just about the way the cast melded together and the performers, and there was a good amount of atypical casting, which was also refreshing, I would say. But, and this is so inappropriate, but the performer who played Angel, we somehow locked eyes during the performance. Yes, to the point where we made eye contact, and I'm kind of looking behind me, like, what does that mean? Right. And then during the curtain call, like full on looking at each other, full on, like there's no, even my friend that was with me is like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, I don't know. I don't really know. This is like so inappropriate, breaking the fourth wall and everything, but he was super cute. And, I'm 19 or 20 at this point. The show ends, and my friend's like, you got to go to the stage door. You got to like wait and talk to him. I didn't. I chickened out. Totally chickened out. Yep. So I go back to my flat. Yeah. All the simply not enoughness that was in me right at the time was like, no, he wasn't really looking at me. Like when we meet.
What am I going to do? What am I going to say?
Yep.
How awkward is it going to be?
All the things, and all about, I'm going to be shorter than he thinks or fatter, like all the things. The lighting made me look good, but up close, it's going to be like, oh, who's this hot mess? All the things. Anyway, so we get back to my flat.
Narratives and the stories that we tell ourselves. Yes. Sorry to interrupt, but
which is, I think, linked to regret, particularly in the boldness regret. When we talk about a fear of not putting yourself out there, was I recognized that fear and that inability to take the risk was tied to narratives that kept me from being bold. So anyway, so Zachary does have a little bit of spunk and fire in him. So I get back to my apartment, my flat, and I am mad at myself now, right? I'm frustrated that there was an opportunity and I didn't take it. And at this point it was gone. And I thought, okay, well, it's not lost. So I decided I was going to write a note and then go back to the theater the next day and leave it at the stage door, which, okay, in the grand scheme of taking a risk, meeting somebody immediately after the show, like, hey, I don't know what you say. I'm the guy you were looking at in the theater. Like, right? Like, okay, that's awkward. And we all know that I am awkward. So I just,
but who cares if it's awkward? But yes, I know that's the narrative, but
now it's potentially even more awkward, right? I mean, I don't have to see him face to face, but if I go, like, who's at the stage door? And then I'm giving this note, and this person's like, well, do you know? His name is Neil. I still remember. Shout out to Neil. Please tell me that you listen. But anyway, so I write this note, and I can't even remember what it says. I was like, Neil, first of all, fantastic job in the performance. I regret that I didn't wait and at least tell you that after the show. I'm here for another couple of weeks, because it was like towards the end of my time abroad. I'm here for another couple of weeks. If you would like to grab a coffee or tea or something, I would love to meet up. And then
do you remember how you described yourself? What did you say? We locked eyes, or like?
I think I just like sidestepped it. Because I think I was just like, I regret that I didn't.
Either know it's me or not know it's me. Got it.
Right. Like, I think it was more like, your performance was excellent last night. And I'm bummed that I didn't wait to tell you that. And I think I had some clever way of being like, making more than just eye contact.
Wink,
yeah.
wink.
Like, yes, something like that. I was very proud of it. Right. I was masterful with the pen.
That was undressing you with my eyes.
Oh my God. You can tell how like weird I'm getting. I can't to our viewers, like, I can't even make eye contact with the camera right now. I'm like averting my eyes. I got this silly grin on my face. Probably imagine how Gracie was feeling. But anyway, so I went to the stage door. This was before their performance, and knock on the stage door. My buddy goes with me. He's being really supportive. It was super cool. And somebody at the theater opens the door. Hi, I have a note from one of the cast members. I don't know if I'm allowed to drop it off. Oh, no, I forgot the best part. So I actually went to the box office, not to the stage door. And the woman at the box office could not have been colder. I was like, hi, I have a note for a cast member. Like, can I drop that off with you? And she goes, you're going to have to go to the stage door. And I was like, oh, okay. So can you tell me where the stage door is? She's like, my
experience.
Yes. So, but I'm not going to be deterred, right? Like, I'm already here. I'm in it, right?
You're in it.
I'm in the pool. Like, right. I might as well swim.
Exactly.
So I said, well, can you tell me where the stage door is? She's like, it's around the corner. And I said, I'm sorry, one more question. Which corner? Before I walk all the way around. She's like, it's that way. And I was like, oh, thank you so much. She says, you're welcome. And like close the thing. I'm like, all right, this is going swimmingly. So I go around, knock on the door, stagehand comes up, opens, and I give them the note and takes it. I'm like, sure, and closes the door. And I felt brilliant. Like it didn't matter at that point if he called or didn't call. It was that I was bold, right? I took that step. And
you took hold of the reins of whatever reins are in front of you. You took hold of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Now the icing on this is he did call, hi, Zachary, this is Neil. Hi, Neil. He was very, very sweet.
Did he know it was you?
Like, yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. He was like, was really bummed I didn't see you after the show. I was looking for you, I think is what he said, which like broke my heart a little bit. Because then I disappointed him and disappointed myself because I was living in a place of fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, the show I think was closing because I think they were closing and he was going off somewhere. So, he's like, we can't meet up. I was going back to the States and he was traveling or something. So we didn't actually get to meet up, but he did call. I know.
Yes.
I know. So anyway, I didn't tell you that I was going to tell that story because I thought it would be kind of fun to see your surprise.
Because you knew I would be all like giddy
exactly.
like this right now.
But to the point about opportunity was the window was closing. Clearly, if I had waited afterwards, there at least would have been some meetup or some connection. I don't know if we would have had a drink or gone out or whatever. It doesn't really matter at this point. But there was still an opportunity the next day, but it was different. Mm-hmm. And I took it. Right. So I live with that, like I was bold, but I still have a little bit of regret of like, if I had just waited after the show, what? You don't know. Right.
Who knows?
But anyway,
you don't know. But still, not a good story. Your point, you did, you recognized it and rectified it and still came out with more than had you not done anything at all.
Yeah.
And even if, to your point again, as well, and certainly this has happened in my life, even if the answer was no call, he didn't call you back, or he called you back and said, who the hell are you? This is so weird, right?
Creeper.
That feeling that you had of going through the process, dropping off that note, and then that moment of, I did something and I was brave and I was bold and I'm not going to regret that. That is something that you carry with you for other situations in life. And the more that we do that, the more we lose that scary sense of urgency of, you don't know if there's another opportunity. Because it becomes ingrained in you that the opportunity is now. And it's not out of fear now, like, oh, there might not be another opportunity, which there might not be, but there's still just more a practiced sense of presence and awareness that the opportunity is now. And what is the big deal of being rejected, being told no, being embarrassed, being awkward? What's the big deal? The bigger deal is a missed opportunity. If one is led by the fear of regret, the bigger deal is a missed opportunity. And taking hold of our narrative, the stories that we tell ourselves, the way that we talk to ourselves, like, oh my God, but or even thinking for other people, because that was part of the narrative. You were thinking for him, like that he was going to say, who are you? You're weird. You're shorter than I thought you'd be, and all this kind of stuff. You're thinking for him. You're already anticipating his response when you don't know. He's just a human too. You're not a mind reader. Why are you placing on yourself that job duty and that job description of mind reader? You don't know. So just do what you know, which is your thoughts, your actions, your behavior, your showing up, your stepping up. And then you really get to choose, rather than the what if, you then own a life of as if.
Ooh. Right? How do you do that? How do you do that? It's amazing. I totally just caught you off guard, didn't I? You're speechless now.
I didn't think it was a big deal. So for you to...
I know you don't think it's a big deal.
What's going on?
God, our listeners too are just like, how does she do that? It's just like flows out of you so smoothly and easily. I know this is a little bit of a tangent, so forgive me. We've talked in previous episode about celebrating each other, and I just want to give a shout out to you and Mikey, right? Gracie's brother. You were celebrating her in that moment, right? That was really, you like High School, the musical, the series, right? I'm assuming everybody in your household has some kind of appreciation or value for it. Mikey got her the cameo before, but this was something that meant a lot to Gracie. And to be in that place of all those feelings, the risk, the fear, etc., and to have people around her cheering her on and knowing that this was about something that meant so much to her, I would imagine that helped her or move through whatever those feelings were. And I'll say that because I was sitting next to a friend of mine in the theater watching Rent, male friend. I was out to him. He was very supportive. This friend was the one that was like, do it.
Yeah.
Go talk to him. Go wait. And he was the one when we left that was like, I can't believe we didn't go. Like he was almost going to drag me and kind of like hold me there. Right. And he was the one that really helped me see that there was still an opportunity there. And so it is a little bit of a tangent because we're really talking about regret and what if, but to just harken back to a previous episode, the idea of celebrating others and lifting each other up. You guys did that for Gracie in that moment. And my friend did that for me as well. And for those of us who are becoming a little bit more used to those moments and being bold and stepping into no longer a place of what if, but as if, having others help you is a huge piece of it. So kudos to you and Mikey and your husband for supporting Gracie in that moment.
And for those who might not feel that they have those people. In the prior episode, we talked about go blank yourself for new beginnings. That's the same thing also, which is absolutely, find your people and not even find, recognize, because there are people who to lift you up and embolden you. But should one feel that one doesn't have those people, you've got it right there inside yourself, everybody.
Yeah.
So embolden yourself, empower yourself. And the way to do that isn't some big heroic feat or act. It's actually, if something like that seems or feels heroic, then actually minimize, mitigate, and reduce the opposite. What I mean by that is minimize and reduce and mitigate the fear of embarrassment and the fear of no and the fear of rejection and the fear of awkwardness, and definitely minimize and reduce the tendency to tell narrative stories from the itty bitty shitty committee in our heads, or mitigate, reduce, diminish thinking for others and predicting and assuming what other people might think, might say, might react. I'm going to say one thing,
please.
One of many. I've already said so many. Sorry, everybody. But
stop it.
I did take time off, as did my husband and Mikey, actually. Like, here's Mikey, he is a rising junior. So this summer is important in terms of friendships and everything. And literally the move-in day for Grace in her college was Sunday, and Mikey and Dave had to leave early the next morning to take a long flight back home to Hawaii to start school. And Mikey very consciously said, but I want to be there for Gracie, and this is an important time. And Dave also initially actually wasn't going to come for the full trip. Dave is my husband. But then my husband reflected and said, no, this is a momentous time of our life. And so he took the time, to come. And I have no regrets of how we did this drop off of Gracie to college, because we were very present for Gracie and we were very present for each other. We were very cognizant of supporting each other because we all love each other and we all have our relationships with Gracie and we have our relationships with each other. And we are very present for Gracie and we were very present for Mikey. And my husband and I were even more aware and more present of what each other is going through and feeling as we're dropping off Gracie. So I have no regrets for the way that we did this, the amount of time. And honestly, my being a private practice surgeon, any income revenue lost by taking time out from work, I have no regrets. And that we started off our pre-recording talk about, I didn't even get a word out. I actually just started crying as soon as you came up on Zoom, because I knew that this was going to bring up a bunch of emotions. But I have no regrets doing this episode and bringing up these emotions because of the benefit. When we talk about risk benefit analysis and regret, the benefit of being with you and being open and vulnerable with you and with our listeners and our viewers benefit. It's been a privilege and a blessing and instrumental in my processing of this important transition in my life. So no regrets, only gratitude.
Well, and gratitude to you for sharing that with us and being open. And I got a little emotional thinking about Gracie. And then also when I was dropped off at college and being a kindergarten teacher and watching parents drop off their 4 and 5 year olds, and that complex moment of we're doing this and we have so many questions and so many unknowns, but we're still doing it. And so thank you for inspiring us and for those listeners and viewers and all of us, because it's not always the same for every situation. There might be moments where you're taking a risk and you're like, I can support myself in this. And then maybe there might be other moments when you need some inspiration from somebody else, and come back to Dr. Ignacio's story, because I find it incredibly inspiring and motivating and supportive. So thank you for being open enough to share. And thank you, Gracie and Mikey and Dave, for being willing to allow your stories to be shared on our podcast, because it changes my life. And I know that it greatly impacts our listeners and viewers. So thank you.
And not every time that we take a risk does it mean the outcome is what we want, but there is always still something gained from it. And in the big picture, in the grand scheme of things, whatever that lesson was learned always makes us better in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. I love you.
I love you. I love you, viewers and listeners.
And remember, you are
You are
simply enough,
simply enough.
just as you are.
Period. Love you. Mwah!